There are some watch brands that I absolutely adore, and I'd love to buy a timepiece from them someday. But each brand has a downside that is just holding me back from pulling the trigger at the moment. Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about an issue that I have with three Swiss watch brands that I love and appreciate. This might come off as a bit of a rant and could upset some of you. So if you consider brands like Omega, Longines, and IWC to be flawless, now might be a good time to stop watching. Let me start by saying that I don't expect watches to be perfect, nor should they be. The three brands I'll be discussing today are ones that I genuinely love and own pieces from, as you can see. However, loving a watch brand doesn't mean blindly accepting everything that they do. And in this video, I'm going to point out some of what bothers me with those brands. Omega crafts some lovely high-quality timepieces. The Seamaster and Speedmaster collections are among the most popular in the industry. But Omega tends to have many watches that are just oversized. Flagship models from these collections start at 42mm in case diameter and go all the way up to 44mm. For my 6.7-inch wrist, they are not ideal. I'd be more willing to accept those sizes if the watches weren't so thick. Some of their timepieces feel like hockey pucks on the wrist. For instance, even the dressier Aquaterra 41 is 13.4mm tall. How is that acceptable for this type of watch? And if you argue that the Aquaterra is actually a sports watch and not a dress piece, then consider the Globemaster 41 at 14.6mm, or the Constellation at 13.5mm tall. In comparison, the Rolex Datejust 41 measures just 12mm thick, which makes quite a noticeable difference. This might not be an issue for everyone, and it all depends on your wrist size. But personally, as I get more and more immersed in the watch world, I've started to steer clear of large top-heavy watches, and now much prefer leaner, dressier pieces. Compared to their older Seamaster models, the coaxial-powered watches feel noticeably chunkier and somewhat out of proportion. It's interesting to note that Omega's shift to larger watches coincided with the introduction of their coaxial movements. Is it just a coincidence that Omega's watches became bigger around the same time they started using these movements? I'll leave that for you to decide. Some will argue that the coaxial calibers are modern and well designed. If you ask me, I have another opinion, but that's for another video. Today, most Swiss watch brands use movements running at 28,800 vibrations per hour. VPH, or vibrations per hour, measures how quickly the balance wheel of a mechanical watch oscillates. It's often expressed in Hertz, which refers to the cycles per second, or in VPH, which refers to the cycles per hour. For instance, a 4 Hz movement has a VPH of 28,800 vibrations, while a 5 Hz movement has a VPH of 36,000. The higher the cycles per second, the smoother the ticking of the seconds hand on a mechanical watch. The 25,200 VPH or 3.5 Hz found in many Longines watches seem inferior to the industry standard. As a general rule, and I know there's ways around it, when you reduce the frequency, accuracy suffers. Longines say it themselves when you look at the Ultrachron on their website. The new model and its high-frequency caliber represent the first reinterpretation of what sets Longines apart, its status as a pioneer in the world of sports timing, with the word accuracy written in big, bold letters. FYI, that Ultrachron beats at 36,000 VPH. Another thing you don't get with that lower frequency is that smoother, more fluid sweep of the seconds hand, which creates a pleasing visual effect and gives a sense of precision. I know it might seem like a small detail, and losing 3,600 beats per hour might not seem much, but it's quite frustrating that a brand like Longines is sticking below the Swiss standard. And as they put it, they should be a pioneer. This shouldn't be a deal breaker for everyone, but the price of the watch has to reflect in part the quality of the movement inside, and it is one of the reasons I don't own a Longines automatic. Longines are able to produce high-frequency calibers, and I hope to see more of those high-frequency calibers in their watches in the future. But is Big Brother holding them back? Maybe the Swatch Group doesn't want them to be a better brand than Omega, because Omega too, remember, with their coaxial escapement calibers, beat at 3.5 Hz. Or maybe I'm wrong, and Longines have figured out the best balance between accuracy, durability, aesthetics, and price. IWC make exceptional timepieces. But at their price point, we need to acknowledge that there are some serious contenders. IWC is a watch brand I absolutely love. The Mark 20, Ingenieur, Portugueser are all stunning watches. Lately, however, their retail prices have become quite steep, which is pushing interested buyers towards other brands. Let's put this into context. The big Pilot starts at $9,000 on the leather strap, while a large Cartier Santos costs $1,500 less. The Ingenieur is at around $12,000, which is around $500 less than a Rolex GMT Master. That's crazy. IWC, keep doing what you're doing. Your watches are phenomenal. But drop your prices 15 to 20% across the board, then we'd be talking. Additionally, I've noticed a shift in stance with my authorized dealer. Previously, they were more flexible with discounts. Now, they seem quite firm on pricing, even for returning customers. Has anyone else experienced this with their IWC AD? What surprises me most, though, is how well some IWC watch lines are holding up in the secondary market. Unlike some other big brands, their prices remain very strong, that it makes more sense to spend a bit more and buy a new watch instead. And that brings me to this question. Are IWC watches worth their retail price? You might see things differently. You may agree with some or none of what I've said in this video, and that's totally fine. What I've shared here is just my honest opinion. Some might say that I'm ignoring the big picture and focusing too much on small details. I might be, and someday I may get over it. But for now, I wish you the best on your watch journey, and I'll see you in the next one.